Anthony Richardson led the Colts' first team offense today, while Jonathan Taylor looked on from the sidelines. Drake and I are live from Colts camp, and we're going to talk about what we saw. Welcome to the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast, live from Indianapolis Colts training camp, presented by Fan Nation on SI.com, part of the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Andrew Moore, joined here as always by my co-host Drake Wally. And Drake, it started out as a stormy morning here at Colts camp. Things got moved inside, and it turned out to be a pretty lively practice. There was only about 750 fans or so in there, but a good day of work for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, it was actually kind of beneficial for the media members to not have to deal with so much heat, but as Andrew said, a great time at the Colts training camp, and a lot of promise was shown from young players that a lot of people are just dying to see. The fans were very happy to see Anthony Richardson have some big plays. Running backs made big plays. Shaq Leonard looked like he was fired up. Just a lot of positive things. Now, there's some things that we're a little concerned about. We'll talk about that we saw today at training camp, but all in all, great day and good for the Colts too.
Yeah, it was. And it just seems like things are starting to speed up. Shane Steichen is really bringing this team up to speed pretty quickly. So a lot learned today. I want to give a shout out to the people in the chat. Culture Shock, if you guys have not followed him on Twitter and on YouTube, Marcus is the dude. So go give him a follow. Thanks for joining us, Marcus. Logan Schmidt, as always, good to see you. And Jack Rizzo, happy birthday. It's Jack Rizzo's 16th birthday. So happy birthday. And we hope to give you a good birthday episode here today.
Go have your dad buy you a car, right?
Yeah, exactly. Go get that car. Go get that car, buddy. Before we start out, like I always start out our episodes, go follow us on all of our social media. Like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook. Follow at Colts on FN on Twitter, and subscribe to us here on YouTube and hit that bell so when Drake and I are going live, because every time Drake and I are here at camp, we're going live after each practice to talk about exactly what we've seen. And if you can't catch us live, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to your podcast, we're on there as well. So Drake, let's really just dive right into it. And I want to start out with number 5, as always, Anthony Richardson. Today was Anthony Richardson's first day with the first team offense. Had some really good plays, had a couple mistakes, nothing too crazy. But what were your initial thoughts from seeing Anthony Richardson out there with that starting offense?
Really, he looks like he's starting to get more and more, comfortable in this, and it's still so new to him moving at such a fast speed. But the thing that really stood out was what he needs to continue working on is that footwork. It's still a little bit off kilter at times. And he even said in an interview, I'm having to learn how to not rely on my arm because he's such a dynamic thrower of the football. It's a flick of the wrist and that thing rockets out of there, which will lead to what else I was going to say. He showed he can absolutely just drop that ball in, a deep ball on a dime. He's not going to struggle with that deep ball accuracy. He hit Alec Pierce for a beauty down the field. But again, he showed the things that you just know he's going to be great at, but did show that he needs to keep working on his footwork, and Steichen was in his pocket the whole practice.
Yeah, that's something that we noticed right off the bat was Shane Steichen is still there, but between every single play, coaching up Anthony Richardson, telling him what he did well on the play, what he didn't do well, things to kind of look for. So that was always good to see. But the play that Drake is referring to, 7-on-7 period, nobody was open down the field, so Anthony Richardson kind of simulated a scramble drill as pressure was coming in on him, drifts over to his left and just uncorks a bomb 55 yards for a touchdown to Alec Pierce. Easily the play of the day, and got the biggest reaction from the fans here at Westfield. It was good to see, and those are the types of highlight plays, those explosive plays that you can expect from this Colts offense with Shane Steichen, with Anthony Richardson, and that's why the hype and the potential around Anthony Richardson is just so high.
Yeah, and when you're talking about, it was 7-on-7, so he scrambled out of there. But like last season, if there was a play where a quarterback had to get out of trouble, it's pretty much it, where the ball was going to be turned over or thrown away. But it shows that when Anthony Richardson gets out of that pocket and when the play is breaking down, he can still create. He can still throw the ball. He can hit those big plays. So it's going to show defenses and Steichen that you're never really out of the play until the play is called dead when Anthony Richardson is your quarterback. So that's a really good sign to see.
Exactly. And Shane Steichen talked to us about that after practice.
Mm-hmm.
He said, that there are going to be times when the play breaks down. And whether it is 7-on-7 or 11-on-11, you still want to be able to simulate those game-like situations where you're able to scramble it. And for everything that Richardson has done so far, Shane Steichen said he feels like he has continued to improve, continued to grow throughout this training camp, throughout the summer. And he's very pleased with where he is at. As Culture Shock says, karaoke time. Yes, the Indy 11 are practicing here behind us. So you hear some extra antics. That is why. But it's always a good time here at Colts camp with so much going on. But yeah, I was pleased with what I saw from Anthony Richardson. Like we said, there were some mistakes. There was a point where on an RPO, Richardson handed the ball off instead of keeping it himself, and where he would have had a huge hole to run, he instead gave it to the running back. Running back ran into a wall, and he was kind of beating himself up a little bit on that. There was also a time where the rush started to close in. The Colts ended up picking up the pressure, but it sped up Anthony Richardson's footwork a little bit. He kind of airmailed a pass to Kylan Granson. Again, he was kind of, by his body language, a little beaten up by that, but I think it also just shows how serious he's taking every single rep in practice.
Yeah, and one of the things that I asked Coach Steichen was, I said, what's different about Anthony Richardson, from trying to develop Jalen Hurts and Justin Herbert and Phillip Rivers, and he said each guy has their own unique type of traits and abilities and personalities. But with Richardson, he's a sponge. This is a guy that's soaking up everything he can. As we said, Steichen was right at his hip. He's talking to him when he's frustrated. He's voicing those frustrations to a quarterback guru, if you want to call him that, in Shane Steichen. And it's what you expect. I mean, again, Colts fans need to be very patient with Anthony Richardson because it's not going to be an overnight product. This is a process. This is not an event. But he showed a lot of promise, and the fact that he is so upset making those mistakes is a good sign, because I recall Justin Herbert also at times in his rookie year would be pretty upset with those types of mistakes, and look at what he became. So It's all about getting better, getting through your mistakes, and clearly Anthony Richardson's got that mentality, and it meshes perfectly with Shane Steichen. Yeah,
I mean, I think for a second practice, you could be pretty happy with what Anthony Richardson has done. Obviously, he doesn't look like it's too big for him. He looks like he had good command of the offense, of the huddle there. So obviously, we're going to have to continue to watch this as it goes along. You can expect more and more improvements, and not every day is going to be a good day for Anthony Richardson. That's just a rookie quarterback or a rookie player in the NFL. Exactly. So we're going to have to keep watch on that. But overall, I think the Colts are very satisfied with where Anthony Richardson is currently at. But there was another group that really kind of stole the show outside of the huge bomb from Anthony Richardson to Alec Pierce, and that was the running back position, because with everything surrounding Jonathan Taylor, all the issues, all the drama with Jonathan Taylor and his contract situation, he's still on PUP. He was at practice today, but as you guys can see from the thumbnail and probably seen from other pictures, he had that face. He had a scowl on his face pretty much all practice. Didn't really engage with anybody. Didn't really talk to anybody. He was with his position group, but just a very different demeanor than we're used to seeing from Jonathan Taylor. And with everything going on, it doesn't seem like he's really doing anything to calm down the questions of, is he holding out because his ankle is hurt, or is he on PUP because he is waiting for a new contract? And I think those questions are going to continue until we actually see or hear from Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, and we'll get to the performance of the relief troops in the backfield in a moment, but that was a hot topic amongst the media members. Like, what was he thinking? What's on his mind? Every picture you saw of him, not really that happy, whether it's that he's displaying it for a reason, whether it's that he's actually feeling this way, or like Andrew said, maybe it's that he's still rehabbing an ankle injury. Because look, if you're a running back and you have a lower extremity injury, you have to rehab the heck out of it. So especially if it's a high ankle sprain. But yeah, very weird feel for Jonathan Taylor. He just kind of would like lull himself over to the drills and stuff. So there's something on his mind, and it doesn't seem good, but it's also too early to tell entirely. early. So.
Yeah, so we'll have to see again if this keeps up, and we will probably have. I mean, I would be surprised if the Colts didn't make Jonathan Taylor available there, because there's going to be pressure from everybody to speak with Jonathan Taylor and try to figure out what's going on. But while Jonathan Taylor was watching what was going on the field, the running backs were having a day. Let's start out with Evan Hall, because Evan Hall, that boy is looking better and better. I mean, he shined in rookie mini camp, and he certainly hasn't slowed down now that training camp is underway. He had a really good first practice, and today, Drake, watching him, Evan Hall is going to have a pretty big role in this offense if he keeps this up.
Yeah, and the thing that's real fascinating about Evan Hall is that he came out of college being arguably the best receiving back in the draft. And, I've been comparing him ever since he was drafted to Nyheim Hines. Like, yes, Nyheim Hines was a dynamic receiving back, but anytime he was in, you kind of knew it was almost like you were telling the defense, we're probably going to throw here, or it's probably going to be some sort of misdirection run. But with Evan Hall, you've got a downhill runner. Okay, you've got a guy who can catch those passes. I thought he looked crisp in passing drills. I thought he looked crisp in just the way he would pick gaps to run through, the way that he ran with the ball. He looked really good. And like you and I saw, he also busted loose a ridiculous 55. I think it was a 55-yard touchdown that Andrew actually tweeted about as it happened. So, yes, to anyone who's curious about Evan Hall's performance, he looked very, very good today.
Yeah, he did. And not only just catching the ball, like Drake said, but running the ball. You certainly noticed the Colts offensive line is making their mark as well, opening holes for these guys. And it certainly doesn't help that Anthony Richardson is back there, and the threat for Richardson to run is also prevalent. I mean, I saw on a play, on a handoff to Evan Hall directly, it was an option play where Anthony Richardson stuck the ball out, and Dio Odangbo was coming off the edge. Odangbo just stopped because he didn't know where the ball was going to go. And just the threat of Anthony Richardson running the ball, you're already seeing that here in training camp, because Odangbo had to stop and wait for where the ball was going to go. And by the time the ball was handed off to Evan Hall, Hall was gone, and Odangbo wasn't going to catch back up to him. So you're seeing the benefits to having such an athletic, mobile quarterback in Anthony Richardson already in training camp. And if we're seeing that already, that's going to translate to the field on Sundays.
Yeah, and also along with Hall, I mean, I don't know if Zach Moss and Deion Jackson necessarily had the big pop plays that Evan Hall did. But I'll tell you right now, they looked good too. I mean, Evan Hall, Deion Jackson had a couple big gains. Zach Moss looked like the guy that was leading the running back charge at the end of last season. And I'll throw something else in the fire here, is that it's an interesting dynamic with running backs right now for the Colts, because Taylor's working on the extension. He's, clearly not happy with what's going on, and the offense will be, destructive potentially with him. However, could there be an argument while he's standing there getting this worked out that if Hall, Moss, and Jackson continue to show their worth, we might be making an argument that the NFL is standing next to, and that is that you don't necessarily have to have a star running back to operate an offense with a guy like Richardson, with that kind of committee. So we'll have to see what happens with Taylor's contract talks and how these running backs keep progressing behind Taylor. It's one of the positions that out of nowhere is now one to watch.
And we're not denying that Jonathan Taylor is, when healthy and out there, a top 5 running back in the NFL.
Absolutely.
But going and seeing training camp, seeing practice up close, I mean, you realize that running backs are a dime a dozen. It seems true. when Zach Moss, Evan Hall, Deion Jackson are able to go in there. All 3 of them had pretty productive days.
So did Jake Funk.
Yeah, Jake Funk with
fourth guy on
with
the
third team did some work as well. But at the same time, I mean, there also is a difference between performing in training camp and showing on practice to week 16 against the New England Patriots, when you need a run and you're able to just rip off a 65-yard run for a touchdown and seal the game, like Jonathan Taylor did in 2021, when everybody in the building knew, including Bill Belichick, and that Patriots defense, which is very good, knew that Jonathan Taylor was going to get the ball, and it didn't matter. Taylor didn't stop until he reached the end zone. So It's a very interesting predicament. I keep saying interesting because it's a very important situation, not only for the Colts but for the NFL, because now with Stephen Holder of ESPN, with his report last night coming out that the Colts haven't even offered Jonathan Taylor a contract yet. According to Jim Irsay, they haven't even offered an extension to him at this point. It's a lot different than what the Colts have done in the past, because they have extended Ryan Kelly early, Shaquille Leonard, Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith, even Nyheim Hines, who plays the same position as Jonathan Taylor. It's a very different approach to what Chris Ballard has done in the past, and it certainly could be one of the reasons that Jonathan Taylor seems displeased with his current situation.
Yeah, and he's one of the few running backs that has a claim that yes, he was hurt last season, but he pretty much shouldered the entire offense that year. And then, you look at a guy like Saquon Barkley, who gets a 1-year, $11 million contract after tying for the reception lead on the Giants and basically being the running back department. It really might make Taylor think to himself, like, holy cow, what is happening to the running back position? Because Saquon was the entire offense for the Giants, and he gets a 1-year, $11 million contract. So right now, it's interesting, kind of like Andrew said, with the running back situation mixed with the Colts having one of the bell cows in the NFL that has a claim to get more money, mixed with the fact that they've got a committee behind him in an offense that it might all work, just fine. So a lot of different moving parts here for running back, not just in the NFL, but also with the drama that's going on with Taylor's agent as well.
Right. I want to give a quick shout out to Luke Veerkamp as well, saying hi from the drive home. Good seeing you all up there. Luke is with the Blue Stable. Be sure to go check all of his work out. It's great seeing you, buddy,
Absolutely.
here at Colts camp. But yeah, Drake, I think the Colts are just in it's a very interesting time, and just a different time here for this organization, because whether we like it or not, the Colts were a 4-win team last year. So changes, as Chris Ballard said, changes are going to be made. Now we will see if things change on the Jonathan Taylor front, as far as him working out an extension maybe in the season. Do the Colts wait till after this season and approach it in the spring? And what about Michael Pittman Jr.? Are they going to do the same thing with Pittman? Because the Colts, we expect them to try to extend Pittman long term as their top wide receiver. Now it would certainly be, I think, wouldn't make Jonathan Taylor very happy if all of a sudden Michael Pittman gets an extension and then Jonathan Taylor still has it. But it's going to be a very interesting storyline and something to monitor, because if Jonathan Taylor continues to show his displeasure and continues to get more and more frustrated with this team, this could boil into the season. And there's not a guarantee that Jonathan Taylor sits out games, but if he becomes more and more frustrated, he could attempt to sit out games. He could ask for a trade, and it doesn't seem like we're going to get a resolution from this anytime soon.
Yeah, and it's really going to – I know that we were talking with a couple other media members about it, is that it might take Jonathan Taylor actually saying something, actually answering some questions, some tough questions, because right now, he's been kind of silent. He's not really the kind of guy that's going to instigate anything, but – boy, after everything that happened with the agent, with Irsay, with the fact that they haven't presented him any contract, and then you see his body language today at camp. I mean, it was of the most disappointing looking type of guy, a guy that's not happy. Eventually, I think Taylor's going to have to put some of these questions to bed by answering them in front of the media. So be on the lookout for that. It's probably going to have to happen.
And while Jonathan Taylor stole a lot of the show, so did Anthony Richardson. We also had the Indianapolis Colts defense out there making plays. Specifically, guys, Kenny Moore II, another good day out of Kenny Moore. And we talked about this last night, how Kenny Moore just needs to continue to build up his confidence, continue to stack those days, and how important it is not only for Kenny Moore, but for this Colts defense, for Kenny Moore to get back to playing at his Pro Bowl level. And it was very early in camp, in 11-on-11, very early in practice, I should say, where Anthony Richardson had an RPO, quickly threw it out to Isaiah McKenzie in the slot, and here comes lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
Kenny Moore just running real quick, diving, taking down Isaiah McKenzie for a loss. So you're starting to see him make more and more plays, and it seems like his communication and his chemistry, I should say, with Gus Bradley is stronger than ever.
And that's great to see, because he's one of the more, I'm trying to think of the word, dynamic playmakers on the defense. And, I think that he's going to have a big bounce back year. It was clearly a mental thing. Once the year kind of fell apart. I mean, we heard Ryan Kelly talking when he was getting an interview that a lot of people weren't talking to each other in the locker room. So that's got to cascade, not just from the offensive side, but also to the defensive side. So Kenny Moore being mentally locked in is great, because you see guys like Juju Brents still on the sideline recovering. You want everyone to be clear-minded by the time that defensive secondary hits the field in week one, because if Kenny Moore is slipping a little bit with his performance, it could be kind of a slippery slope for the rest of the secondary. So it's good to see.
Right. And another good sign for this defense, Shaquille Leonard out there once again with the starting unit. I mean, it seemed like Gus Bradley, this isn't just with Shaquille Leonard, but this is where really with the entire Colts defense throughout training camp, Gus Bradley really likes to rotate guys in and out, keep guys fresh, and make sure he gets a look at all guys. But in their base defense and for the first few plays, Shaquille Leonard was out there. He was out there with Zaire Franklin as the starter at that Mike linebacker position. And Shaq Leonard had a lot of energy. There was a play where he got into the scrum with it and was trying to punch the ball out of Zach Moss's hands. And then you heard a scream from the maniac afterwards, all hyped up. But again, good to see. Doesn't look like there were any setbacks. It looks like he is continuing to progress, continuing to feel like himself. We didn't speak with Shaquille Leonard today, but you can just tell from how he was on the field, his energy out there. Shaq was feeling really good.
Yeah, and the fact that he's just out there excited, really playing hard, and he's making plays in practice and everything like that, trying to get the ball on the dirt and just, screaming excitement. That's the kind of maniac that you want to see. And especially, like you said, with Kenny Moore, as he gets more acclimated to Gus Bradley's defense, that's huge, because I do think that it really suits a guy like him well. I think it suits a guy like Kenny Moore well. I think, even to go to the rookies, it suits Juju Brents well. So for these guys to get back to where they need to be is a really good sign. And also, like you said, rotating people in and out. JoJo Domonok also had some decent plays, and he's a guy that has been on, my personal radar just since the Colts brought him to the team. So good for the defense. It was a great day for the offense, but it was the offense overshadowed what was also a pretty good day for the defense as well.
Yeah, exactly. Want to run through maybe a little bit of the injuries. There really wasn't any big news. Samson Ebukam was added, did not practice today. Shane Steichen said he's got a little bit of a hamstring. So if you're not on PUP, it seems like you have a hamstring injury as Ebukam joins Juju Brents and Julian Blackman in that category. But overall, we thought it was a really good practice for the Colts. You can definitely notice the tempo. It's a fast speed out there for the Colts. But it looks like they're getting a lot of work done and really starting to ramp things up to bring this team back up to speed and getting everybody back into football shape.
Yeah, and even Steichen was asked, I think by Channel 8, what's different about your approach for this camp? And, I personally like the way that he's kind of started it off slow, a little easier, a little bit more, of kind of a cool breeze type of approach, because it's a lot of change. It's a lot of new, things to digest, whether you're a veteran or a rookie, but especially a rookie, or especially someone like Ebukam who's new to the team. You can't just be, force-fed an entire meal of stuff to learn. So I think that everything looks like it's pointing in the right direction with guys that were hurt. Shane Steichen kind of mending with the offense with Richardson's development right now. The only thing that is sticking out there like a sore thumb is what's going to happen with Jonathan Taylor, because Shaq Leonard looks like he's on the right track. Kenny Moore looks like he's on the right track. Obviously, the rookies like Juju Brents, they're on the right track to recovery. But it's all going to hinge on Jonathan Taylor. But otherwise, outside of that, great camp for the Colts today.
Yeah, really good practice, and it seems like the team is really enjoying one another, being with one another. There's just a new energy around this Colts football team, and it's really good to see. So for our last few minutes of the episode here, I want to go through the chat and take a look at some of the questions that you guys may have. Let's take a look here. Well, first, we want to give a shout out to Asai Lopez. Hopefully, that's how I say it. You pronounce your name.
Dallas,
from Dallas. Thanks for joining in. Nomadic Brian asks, what could the Colts get in a JT trade if it comes to that?
Not as much as you'd think, I bet.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Could he get the Christian McCaffrey deal? I don't know if the Colts could really do that.
Yeah.
They could probably get a couple mid-rounders for it, maybe a second and a third. It would certainly be interesting. I'm not sure how much a team would be willing to pay, but then again, we've seen other teams for a running back that's in his prime and when healthy, a top 5 running back, there'd be certainly teams interested.
Yeah, and I think if Jonathan Taylor had more receiving statistics to go along with his dominant rushing, that would be an argument that could be made. But yeah, I personally think, let's say hypothetically, they put him out on the market, maybe a second rounder,
second and a fifth, maybe.
Yeah, like mid round, you wouldn't get what you would expect. Trust me.
And the thing is, too, any team that is trading for Jonathan Taylor would probably be needing to trade for him and then extend him.
Exactly.
I don't think he would go just for 1 year, but I could be wrong. Logan Schmidt is asking, is Jonathan Taylor going to speak to the media anytime soon? As far as I know, that there's nothing scheduled since he is on PUP. He technically does not have to speak to the media since he is injured. Could the Colts force him and make him available? That could be possible, but as of right now, there is no planned time that Jonathan Taylor will speak to the media. Let's take a look and see if there's any more questions here. Wyatt Law, we'll answer Wyatt Law's question before we get out of here. He said, when do the pads come on? Shane Steichen revealed to us that Monday is when the Colts will be having their first padded practice. So tomorrow night, Saturday night, if you guys are coming out for the night practice, it'll be in helmets and shells once again and shorts, but you'll still see a lot of work being done because even though they're not in full pads, Drake, the Colts have been really getting after it, and we saw that firsthand today.
Yeah, and again, it's just good to see energy. It's good to see excitement, plays getting made, and at the end of the day, I know that it's kind of stereotypical at this point to talk about, but the most important aspect is to see Anthony Richardson falling into this offense and mending with Steichen the way that everybody had kind of hoped. Truly a great match for him with the way that Steichen's offense is going to be. So, again, you just want to see him continuously improve things like his footwork, when he's going to throw that ball, reading the option, reading the defensive end, that sort of thing. But that's going to come with time. And, again, Colts fans, it's a process. It's not an event.
Right, exactly. One more here. Colton Wheeler. Oh, I'm sorry. That was Wyatt Laws. One more here. Colton Wheeler saying, how's Buckner and the defensive line looking? Fast.
Yes.
Drake and I got an up-close look at the defensive line today through their individual drills. Buckner, Grove, Kwity Dio Dangbo was the starter in place of Samson Ebukam today. But they look fast. Nate Ollie has those guys getting after it. And number one, their size, their speed. It's a ferocious group, and we saw them. I wouldn't say necessarily overworking the offensive line, but they were certainly making things tough on the offensive line today.
Yeah, and even behind those guys, guys like Taven Bryan even looked explosive. He looked very just as athletic as the Colts probably brought him in for that athleticism. So even the guys behind Buckner and Stewart and all those guys, they looked like they also were coming of the line of scrimmage very hard. And like he said, Nate Ollie is just a dog. He is keeping those guys on point every single play, yelling at them, encouragement, telling them, hurry up. So those guys are going to be an area I don't think a lot of Colts fans should have to worry about.
Yeah, defensive line's off to a fast start, just like the rest of the team here at Colts camp. And that's our show for today, guys. Really appreciate you joining us here live from Westfield, Indiana at Colts training camp. Yes, Truett, there is a rooster in the background that keeps going off. So he can take Stats Matt's place as the third host of the show since he had plenty to say throughout the episode. But shout out to Truett, Alex Jackson, Wyatt Law, Colton Wheeler. Tez, Nomadic Brian, Logan Schmidt, everybody that joined along today.
Thank
Luke,
you.
Culture Shock, Sarah, Chris Manning, Matthew is in here as well. Happy birthday to Jack Rizzo. Really appreciate everybody joining in for our live episode from Colts Camp today. And if you haven't done so already, please go ahead and follow us at Colts on FN on Twitter, like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, and subscribe to the Horseshoe Huddle YouTube channel and hit that bell so you know when Drake and I are going live, because we're still going live every Monday and Thursday, and then we'll be going live every time we are here at Colts Camp for the rest of the summer. And if you catch us live, you want to listen to us, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast, we're on there as well. So don't miss us on there and our Wednesday episodes of Horseshoe Huddle Halftime. So before we get out of here, Drake and I are also writing pieces for horseshoehuddle.com on what we saw today at training camp. Drake, give us a preview of what your piece or you're focusing on today.
Yeah, so I discussed just how, good Evan Hull looked, good Zach Moss and Deion Jackson looked, and, whether, hoping that Taylor gets that extension, that's going to be one heck of a supporting committee, and altogether could be one of the best running back committees in the league.
Yeah, definitely check that out. And then I have an inside scoop on Shane Steichen and his comments on Anthony Richardson, how he feels the rookie quarterback is coming along. You're definitely going to want to check those out. You can follow Drake at DWalster on Twitter. You can follow me at Andrew Moore NFL, and we will be back Monday night to talk about all the happenings from Colts camp from this weekend. So until then, everybody, enjoy your weekend.